I have a lot to say.
Yeah. I'm so excited to hear it.
So Wednesday is from 2022, last year, and it is about. It follows Wednesday Addams' years as a student when she attempts to master her emerging psychic ability, thwart a killing spree, and solve the mystery that embroiled her parents. It is created by Alfred Gough and Miles Millar, and occasionally directed by Tim Burton. Um, so yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Other cool things are happening. So I don't go too in depth about like what happens in the show because it is a mystery show and I think it is fun to unpack and discover those things as you're watching. So I don't really go into the plot. I do go into a lot of character study, so just that's kind of where I'm coming from. So for
Yeah.
anyone who's like, so it is more or less spoiler free. I wanted to really complain about one specific thing, but it would have been a big spoiler, and so I
Oh,
didn't.
okay. Okay.
So just so people know, it is mostly a pretty much a spoiler free, at least in my section,
Yeah.
episode, which you don't always get with the Ghouls. So go
Yeah.
watch the show.
I look forward to
Um,
talking to you about whatever the thing you were possibly going to say outside of the show.
Yes, yeah. Once we start and record, I'll be like, let me tell
Yeah.
you. Like what? No.
Yeah.
So Wednesday follows the moody character Wednesday Addams during her formative years as a teen sleuth. Jenna Ortega plays the angsty Addams and expands the character we've seen many times before. At least I have. Sorry, cat.
That's okay.
Because I loved the Addams Family movies growing up, and after watching the show, me and my partner watched the Addams Family movies because I really wanted to experience the horror and like charm and fun that was Debbie. If you know, you know. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Pastels. What a great film. And Ortega's Wednesday steps into her own version of the character, and we expand the lore that we had seen with the other Young Wednesdays, including her co-star Christina Ricci's murderous little Pocahontas. So she's always kind of had these specific traits, and she brings that in, but we get to spend a lot more time with her, and because of that, we need like explanations. Like she can't just
Yeah.
be like, oh, I like to torture my brother, and I am
Yeah.
tortured at summer camp because everyone's normal,
Yeah.
which
You
is
get to,
great.
like, spend more time with them, yeah.
Yeah, so now she has to like make sense, and she has to grow, which I think is really cool because it's like she could only make so much sense,
Yeah.
like one-dimensional as she's been in the past. And because this show offered us more time to spend with the peculiar family known for their morbid fascinations and intense love for one another, we get a backstory and deeper glimpses into their peculiarities. And Wednesday Adams has been expelled from another normie school and is now, as a last resort, being sent to a school for outcasts just like her, the Nevermore Academy, which is like, I wish.
Yeah.
I wish. It's
Yeah.
such a cool school. And they do like the uh typical high school film where they're like, this is the this clique. Those are the
Yeah.
Stoners, they're Gorgons. Wink. Um
Yeah.
so fun. That stuff is so cute. I'm a sucker for it. Again,
Yeah.
I've seen every episode of Riverdale. Morticia and Gomez had actually met at this academy and are a bit of a legacy. And I do think it's kind of weird. It's a little strange, and not the way that they're strange. And like, this doesn't make any sense. That they didn't start here with her, or like hopefully Pugsley is going to go here. I don't know, but nevertheless, Wednesday sees this as a new challenge to escape the norm. The norm in this case is the abnorm, and she just trying to be different always.
Yeah.
So, while at Nevermore Academy, Wednesday learns some things about herself, the town, and the people in it. And reluctantly, she finds strength in friendship, and specifically with the quirky, bright, and absolutely lovable Enid. And if you're watching it, that's watching our episode. That's who I'm dressed as.
Yes.
Enid is a femme werewolf who hasn't turned yet, and that's kind of this point of contention for her. And she constantly serves as a queer metaphor with her closeted transformation woes. Uh,
Yeah.
Even further, she's a trans metaphor. Just look at her hair. She's a trans
Yeah.
flag. She's wearing it. However, there's also like there's like the part where her mom is like I'm gonna send you to this special lycanthropy conversion camp for girls like
Yeah.
you. And I
Oh
was
my
like, a
goodness.
little heavy handed. We get it. We get it.
Yeah.
She's queer. But then she's not queer. So I'm
Yeah.
like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Because is she or is she not? Like, you
I
can't
mean,
just be
maybe
like,
in season 2 we'll
that's
get
and
more,
yeah.
but yeah.
Because I'm of the mind that Wednesday didn't need to have a love triangle. She needed a werewolf girlfriend. And so I hold out hope for such a twist in season 2. And I'm just saying, like, do more than just make her love rainbows. Like, you can't just be like,
Yeah.
oh, she's like bright, colorful. We're going to send her to conversion camp. Her whole thing is like her. Like it is like is a metaphor for being closeted and in this family that doesn't get you. And then she's like after this dude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Like, or at least like she can be after the dude, but then maybe be a little more obvious of like maybe she is trans. Like,
Yeah.
or like they just they're not committing, and that's the issue. It's just like
Yeah.
it's queer baiting. You're queer baiting,
Yeah.
and that's
And I
so
mean,
weird.
it's an issue throughout the entire show. They code a lot of things, but they never explicitly say it so that you have like all these people like kind of like am I represented or am I not? I don't know. Like,
Yes.
it's tough.
Yeah, I'm gonna be talking about that. I'm about to get into that too, especially about me, because there was something that was so exciting about the potential of this show that
Yeah.
pretty much let me down a little bit. And so, and I'm sure you feel the same way for your own thing with this character that could be so much, could have represented so much.
Yeah.
But Wednesday is a mystery show with bug-eyed monsters, and a protagonist that hasn't quite figured out the world isn't against her yet. And with the previous iterations of Wednesday, her macabre fascinations and quirks were fine because she was minimal and one dimensional, like I mentioned. But with the series, Wednesday can grow a little more and become more than that one note oddity. And she investigates monster attacks in this town and unravels the complicated, though still foggy, history of the town while also finding herself, which is cute. It's a coming of age. But
Right.
let's talk about one of the biggest draws to the show that I was excited about was that this is a very like a on the nose, more obvious Latine representation of the Addamses,
Yeah.
uh, because obviously they've always been kind of that. They've always been at least mixed, but having Jenna Ortega, having Luis Guzman, totally blanking on Pugsley's name, but all Latine.
Yeah.
And I'll go into I'm gonna get really excited about it. And Morticia's there. She's Irish. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm just glad they didn't like. I'm just glad she wasn't trying to pretend to be Hispanic again. It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Addams family, was originally created by Charles Addams in 1938 and was an antithesis to the nuclear family. They were to represent a quirky kind of commentary on what we usually see with a nuclear family, which is really funny when you think about what are the Addams family, right? The core things that we know about them is yeah, they like the macabre and stuff. It's also like they love each other. Like there's like a really intense love and care for one another, like especially in the movies. Like his love for his brother is like it's not the same as his love for Morticia, but it is just as strong and beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like the fact that just like his love for Morticia, right? It's like, okay, this is the antithesis to our American family values is a man who loves his wife like a lot.
Yeah, because
And it's
like
like
in a lot of nuclear families, the man does not love his wife. No one really likes anyone, and they're all just really sad.
so much of comedy for so long was like, I hate my wife.
Yeah.
And then that was it. And it's like, no,
Yeah, their
old
entire
comedians
personality was just, "I hate my wife."
old comedians trying to come back being like, oh, we can't say we hate our wives anymore. Like it's so
Darn.
it's so funny. But it's like that's what he was. And he also was like like he was strong and he had masculine parts to him, but he was also effeminate in ways. And like it wasn't a toxic masculinity too. And
Yeah.
like then you have Morticia who's just like beautiful and gorgeous, but she's like reserved and like studious and also just really kind. And I think that also,
Yeah.
like, it's like, she's not gossiping or whatever, what you imagine the nuclear family to be doing. And the
Yeah.
kids are the kids. But it's like
Yeah.
when you think about it, it's just like that's what we're competing, like we're commenting on, and to look at them and be like, this is what you're trying to say. What you trying to say about us? Um,
Yeah.
but the Addams family in the comic strips celebrated the macabre and delighted in the bizarre, though they were never really condescending or judgmental to others, like the normal families. They simply knew what they liked and did as they pleased. And they didn't even really know that they were weird.
Yeah.
Like especially in the films and stuff, people are like, "What?" And they're just like, "What do you mean?" This is a
Yeah.
normal thing to do. And like Morticia's like cutting off the tops of the roses. Like that's how she like grooves her garden. And it's like that's just how she lives, man. And she like there's no judgment there. And I think that was really cool. I think the only judgmental Adams is Wednesday. And for good reason. She was like literally just calling people out. And the family had started as comic strips in the New Yorker, which I think is really cool. I didn't know that. And I was like, that's so cool. Then there was a 1960s dark comedy sitcom, which expanded the delightful world of the otherworldly family and also made them Latine. So when they were the comic strip, they didn't have names. They were just these weird characters. And Gomez Adams didn't have a name. He was the creator, Adams, wanted to call him like Repulsy or something, like
Okay.
to be like repulsive.
Okay.
Um, but he just like was this like he's supposed to be kind of like weird looking, and he's like stout because he's not supposed to be conventionally attractive because he's
Okay.
against
I see what you're saying.
whatever. So with the show though, actor John Aston was given free reign to name the patriarchal character, and he chose Gomez. And he told the Ocala Star Banner, which fun fact is my hometown, which is so weird, that he was also free to inject the Latin lover blood in Gomez's veins, which is weird. And despite this questionable J.K. Rowling approach to character naming, the family became, at the very least, mixed race. It's given Cho Chang.
Yeah.
Gomez Adams. Like, what is that? Like,
Yeah.
whatever. But later, with the 90s film, Puerto Rican actor and phenomenal artist Raul Julia elevated the character further, solidifying the character's design completely as a loving, romantic, and very Latine father. And for me growing up, it's like I didn't have a dad growing up, and I didn't really want one. I
Yeah.
didn't really care for that. But if I had wanted a dad, it was gonna be Raul Julia's Gomez, a hundred
Yeah.
percent. I was like that guy. Like I just felt like I never really saw like a Latino dad on
Yeah.
screen except for like George Lopez. And I
Yeah.
was like, he's fine. For my sister, she loves Antonio Banderas in Spy Kids. She was
Spy
like, "That's my
Kids.
dad," and he kind of looks like her dad too, so it's funny. But she was like, "That's my dad," and I was like, "Did I ever have a guy?" And I was like, "Yeah." Funny enough, it's a spooky character of Gomez. I was like, "That's who I want to be my dad." So I just love that. And he's also Puerto Rican, which like that we don't get a lot of representation, so that means a
Yeah.
lot. With the Netflix series, this Latin identity is expanded past the Latin flair of Gomez and his love for Morticia, and we're given an entire backstory of their heritage. And Ortega was actually really excited to play Wednesday, explaining Wednesday is technically a Latina character, and that's never been represented. So for me, anytime that I have an opportunity to represent my community, I want that to be seen. And I love that.
Yeah.
It was like, that's so cute. Like, I really do. I got very excited that they were leaning into it and that, like, Luis Guzman was, Gomez. I know he gets a lot of, flack for not being, you know, Raul Julia. And I get like, no one is. So
Yeah.
sorry. But I love him
Yeah, he
as
did a
an
good job.
actor. And I think
Yeah.
he you know what, he was playing it. And I think it was delightful for him. Like I think he was having a good time. And it means a lot because he just like fits that character. Like he's
Yeah.
sweet and he's doting and he's like a good dad. And what Gomez is supposed to be. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
No complaints from me. But just a side note, before doing this episode, I didn't know that Ortega was actually Puerto Rican and Mexican, and that Luis Guzman is Puerto Rican. I don't know why I didn't know that, but they
Yeah.
both are, and I'm just really excited to see Fela Boricuas like on screen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa! It was actually like they're. I think they hint at being Mexican because, of course, they're kind of talking about being indigenous, but without talking about being indigenous.
Yeah.
So, and they also say Dia de la Muerte, so Mexican, but they're Puerto Rican, and that's really fun.
Yeah.
Um, so despite this win for representation, the Netflix series at times felt like a blind casting world. Like
Yeah.
they were like, we're diverse, but without like the magic from Brandy's Cinderella blind casting, like that was
Yeah.
charming, you know? This was like a mess. Cause it would be like, why is that character doing that?
Yeah.
Second. And then I had so many questions with like the backstory because I'm like, but wait, wait, hold on, but who's this now? This doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah.
just bear with me for this plot because it gets weird. Wednesday and her family's Latine heritage, though confirmed and nodded at throughout the series, does little to drive the plot, which is really sad because you had so much opportunity. Like, if you're gonna make them Mexican, like imagine what you could do like with the monsters, with the lore, with just the backstory. Like, do some research, talk to somebody, talk to like
Yeah.
a brown person, I don't know. um
Yeah.
lay off it when Ortega wants to like change up the script a little bit, like
Yeah, she made headlines for that literally, like, yesterday, and it was like, "Oh, producer mad," and called her out for, like, changing lines. It's like, "Well, maybe the lines needed to be changed."
listen, the poor girl performed while she had COVID, and that was really a problem and also rough. But
Yeah.
her wanting to change the lines, not a problem.
Yeah.
Um, it's just a terribly missed opportunity. And I was thankful actually to find in doing research for this episode, someone who agreed with me on refinery.com. And then in their article, there's a major issue with Latina representation in Wednesday. Writer Nicole Froyo explains, while it is refreshing to see a non-stereotypical Latina role, I would have loved the series to take advantage of the rich cultural landscape of Brujeria, delve into Mexican mythology and beliefs in the paranormal, and truly integrate Mexican traditions and creeds around death into the already eerie Addams family narrative. Instead, Wednesday relies on simply telling its audience that the main character is Latina and moving on. And by telling us, they just mention, she like mentions Dia de la Muerte, she says gracias once, like to her dad. Like that's like it. Like it's so weird. She's
Yeah.
like they were like, we did it. We did it. We did everything we had to do. What else do you want? You're asking for so much. But like even more so is like I just recently read This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno, and there's Mexican like spirituality and lore in that horror that
Yeah.
was so fascinating. Like it amplified it. It made it like fun and scary and interesting in a way that's like non-generic. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you could elevate your work if you were more intentional about the characters that you're putting into it, like and thinking about where they're coming from.
Yeah, because it just enhances the character.
Yeah, or just the world. Like if you just thought
Yeah.
about it for like a few seconds, like what does it mean to have Wednesday be a Latina and like be in the spooky stuff? like oh, she could have had a bruja like relative. Like it could have been instead. Instead of giving us a bruja that would have made sense, the show offers us a tinted Goody Adams, and Goody Adams is like from the Crucible. She's
Yeah.
notoriously a white woman, but she's an Adams, so she's Gomez's ancestor. I
Yeah.
have some questions, but there would be so much more to explore and unpack by having her ancestors actually be persecuted by the white Puritan pilgrims instead of like she is persecuted for being like an outcast, but they don't explain what that means. Cause like you're like blonde and blue eyes. What is Is this the Crucible? Or are you just doing the Crucible, or
Yeah.
is race a part of it? Because she
Yeah.
has an accent, and I don't know where it came from. So I'm just trying to figure it out. Um, because Wednesday has been known to, at the very least, be an ally to Indigenous peoples. She has a whole tirade where she's Pocahontas in the films, Christina Ricci as her, and she like burns down everything, and she's like, "You stole the land." Like she called
Yeah.
it out, and then what are we doing? What are we doing now? Because there's like this timeline thing. Because if Goody Adams is Gomez's ancestor, right?
Yeah.
But Goody Adams connects to Wednesday to do the psychic stuff, but the psychic stuff came from
It's from
Morticia.
Morticia, yeah. Yeah.
Questions like what? And
That
it
is
would
a
have made
plot hole, oh
sense.
my god.
It would have made sense. And Morticia is not Latine. No, no. She's Italian. Okay, we're not doing this. But even still, her last name is Adams, and I get it because it's like it's cute because that's actually the name of the character in the Crucible. I get it. It's a cute little nod to be like, oh, remember? But
Yeah.
it's like, but what house? Right? Like, what are we doing? And like, then she she's also a pilgrim. Goody's a pilgrim. Like she's one of the colonizers
Yeah.
here. She's not a native. She's not an
Yeah.
indigenous person, but she's an other and an outcast. So it's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I don't. Whatever. Because Wednesday's
Reasonably
a.
frustrating.
You had a chance. Like you could. Like if you just thought about it. Like it's for a little bit. Anyway, because Wednesday's ancestor, Goody Adams, is a pilgrim and therefore also a colonizer. It's a little hard to sympathize with her plight, but even stepping away from that flaw, right? There is the issue of the colorblind casting method in the show because it's not just her; it's like everybody who's not
Yeah.
white hasn't been thought about for more than 5 seconds.
Yeah.
To pat themselves on the back and be like, look, we have a black character in here.
Yeah.
And we love representation and diverse characters here at the Ghouls. But as we have said many times, when you make a character black, brown, or any other minority, you need to consider what that means to the character now.
Yeah.
Right, like we talked about it with Sade Sellers, where she mentioned like if you take the plot of I Know You Did Last Summer and you swap it out with black kids who cover up a crime, it changes the story. Right? Their
Yeah.
motivations for wanting to cover that up is different than I'm not going to go to Harvard. Like
Yeah.
my dad's going to be mad at me because we murdered this man with our car. It's a different
Yeah.
implication, and it can elevate your storytelling. It can change the story. It can make it relatable. Like you don't have to like we don't have to make everything dark and horrible, right? But we do have to consider who these characters are because the world is going to treat them differently.
Yeah.
And in that same article from earlier that I mentioned, they say the few black characters on Wednesday play the roles of bullies and shockingly settlers. An example of this is the character of Lucas, who appears dressed as a pilgrim in episode 1. When challenged by Wednesday about this costume, Lucas reveals that he works at the Pilgrim World theme park. And she says it takes a special kind of stupid to devote an entire theme park to zealots responsible for mass genocide, but Lucas isn't dissuaded. He reveals that his father owns Pilgrim World, effectively positioning a black character as someone who profits off of celebrating colonization.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, maybe he's, making money off of other people's racism. Okay, we've seen that.
Yeah.
We've seen that. What's the director who does Medea? This is like his whole thing.
Yeah.
But like there's the problem of like that character specifically. So there's also Bianca, who's the siren and the most powerful girl in the school, and she's a bully for no good reason in the beginning, like straight up.
Yeah.
As soon as she gets there, she's like, "I hate you," and it's like, for why? Like, hello, nice to meet you. She does like put Wednesday in her place, which is really refreshing because I can't stand chosen ones.
Yeah.
But it's like, why do they always have to be the ones to do it?
Yeah.
And they talking about the fact that she's getting the prudence treatment from Sabrina, the
Yep.
Chilling Adventures. She's getting prudenced, and being sidelined for the white passing chosen one. Um, and though she does come around in the end as a friend and she sticks up for herself and she gets a little bit of a backstory, it says a
Yeah.
lot to make one of the only POCs a villain for so much of the first season.
Yeah.
Like most of it, she's a villain. I would say she like had integrity. Like at the end, she was like, "No, I'm calling this off." Like she does like have a really strong, amazing character that I hope in season two, now that she's like not a bully, we can actually see her be a person,
Yeah.
and not a needless enemy anyway. But there's the issue that Froyo brought up about the mayor of this town, which is Lucas's dad, who owns Pilgrim World, because a black man runs this historically problematic town and owns the problematic theme park,
Yeah.
right? And there's a whole scene where he is threatened and ridiculed by a white woman, Morticia, later when she accuses him of not understanding the unfairness of society and being a part of the problem. And like, he can absolutely be a part of the problem, for sure. He is a man in power, like, straight up.
Yeah.
However, he is also a black mayor in a racist town that loves to hate outcasts. And this is also where I was gonna have a
Yeah.
spoiler. But what happens is a problem.
Oh,
Uh,
yes. Okay, okay. I'm connecting there because I was also like, I wanted to say it, but now you're telling me I shouldn't say it. So good. Excellent.
right, excellent. So other stuff happens to him that's also a problem.
Yes.
Right. And it's the problem is like we missed some conversations here, like some conversation points of like him being like, listen, like I totally get it. You were not heard. Your like your complaints are valid, Morticia. Like as a woman, you were not given respect. I didn't
Yeah.
do that, but also I get it. But also you need to come with a little more respect than that because they're like something is happening. Like how did he get here? What does he have to go through every day to be here?
Yeah.
There's
And
also this
like
whole
he understands the unfairness of society.
yes, yeah,
Yeah. And he
not
doesn't
being
need a
bullied.
white woman to lecture him about that.
Exactly. It's like it was weird. It's a little weird. It's a little tone deaf. There's also like someone had this whole comment where there was like there's two scenes where there's rain and there are everyone has umbrellas except for specific characters. And in the first like episode, it's the black sheriff woman. She does not have an umbrella. She's got her regular hair out there that they probably like no one on staff could probably style for her, and she's just getting wet, like drenched.
Yeah.
Like weird. It was weird. It was given a little like Twin Peaks,
Okay.
and then later, there's another scene where there's like besides that sheriff lady, there are five other black characters, and two of them are in the rain, while everyone else has an umbrella. So
Yeah.
like, what is that?
You're like,
Like
why
that's
was that the choice? Yeah.
that's just weird, right? And Freyo ties it up nicely here, explaining that at the end of the show, the tally is clear. White characters are the victims of colonization, referencing Goody Adams.
Yeah.
Being like, I'm a victim too. Black people are bullies, and the settlers and indigenous people simply do not exist beyond rhetorical tools for white victimhood. And I was like, snaps.
Oof.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh my god. There's also the side note that I was talking to Kat about before we started was that there's the character Yoko, and as I don't remember any other Asian characters, but I know she is, and she don't say nothing. Like that's a part of it is like she doesn't speak because I think she's one of the sirens, but it's like that's another trope
And that's a
of that they
problem. Yeah.
silence the Asian. Like at least they didn't put a color strip in her hair, like and make her like edgy, afterwards. But she legitimately like the only line I can remember from her, she didn't say. Enid said when she was gonna move in with Yoko after she got into a fight with Wednesday. She says like Enid said all this stuff, or
Oh my
Yoko said
god,
all
so
this
she, like,
stuff to me.
speaks for her,
Yeah,
and then she was actually getting lines.
like I
Okay.
was like that's all I could think. And please listeners, if you remember a time when Yoko said words, send them to me. I do want to see that. But if it happened, it was few and far between, and the only one I remember is when she didn't even say them. So I don't like it's problems.
Yeah.
All that being said, okay, in summation, it was a fun show, and at
Yeah.
times you even I know that Kat is going to discuss some of the other problems we have with the character of Wednesday, some of the other representation issues because it like started a lot, and then it would be like it would drop it, and it'd be like we
Yeah.
did enough, we get star. we get smiley face sticker for go for do,
Yeah.
and you're like,
They're like,
what?
"We know, who's, directing sometimes. We know, but we're gonna just it's not bad though, because we have black people in the show. It's not racist. We can't the show isn't right like, you know what I mean? Like, it's fine. We did
Is
it.
the
Go
main
for it.
character, he's cured of racism now.
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, yeah, and it is a win, okay? And I
Yeah.
did feel
It did good stuff
a
too.
win having Ortega be Wednesday and
Yeah.
making the family more concrete Latine. I think that's really what drove me to it, and I really, really did appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's just like that shouldn't be like enough. We shouldn't just have to settle
Well,
for
yeah.
the scraps, right? Um, but I do want it to be known that I did enjoy the show. I didn't like Fred Armisen, but I don't like him anyway. So that's neither here nor there. But I had fun trying to solve the mystery, and despite my intense dislike for Chosen One character specifically, I did like Wednesday. She actually
Yeah.
grew on me, which is a big surprise. I That's another reason. Like the first episode, I was like, I can't stand you until until she was put in her place, and I was like, okay, I feel a
Yeah.
little better now. I feel a little better that you don't get to win. Um, I love that. But I love that the Addamses got to embrace their Latine mixed identities, and I am excited for the next season and to see how the other characters can step into the light a little and maybe get some definition, and maybe we can clear up some of these really confusing plot holes about like what are we doing.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. They were good 2 cents. I really enjoyed them. I'd pick them up if I saw them on the street, you know?
Oh, thank you.
But, yeah, the show did lots of things that were cool and lots of things that it dropped the ball on.